You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship with David C. Baker and Blair Enns.
David, I think in the early days of this podcast, we could have rightly been accused of being like two old guys smugly complaining about things that we see, things our clients do. And I remember listening to a couple of those podcasts and thinking, God, these two idiots are unbearable.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to go there again.
This is dangerous to talk about because I'm in a cynical mood. I think it's just all my friends on Facebook. I just need new friends on Facebook. And so
you've discovered they're all part of like heavily armed right-wing militias. Is that it?
They're all far right or far left. It's like, I think I'm the only sane one in the bunch.
That's why you and I get along so well, because I'm like the most centrist person I've ever met, yeah. Politically.
I like what you said yesterday about politics.
I've never met anybody who, once they start talking about politics, I've agreed with their politics. Mm-hmm. And part of it is I don't have a strong political ideology. So to me, it's all about like, how do we communicate? Are we having a civil conversation about what we agree with and disagree with, or are we invoking rage? And it's like, I think we're all just sick of rage. So on that note, why don't you and I get a little like faux enraged over some of the words that our clients use? So if you're listening, dear listener, we're going to maybe call you out a little bit or ask you to kind of check to see if you use some of this language. And just a little parental advisory warning, there's going to be just some mild swearing here as David describes the name of this episode and explains the name. What is the name of this episode, David?
Well, it's bullshit bingo. That's hardly swearing nowadays, right?
Yeah.
I think I first heard that term maybe, 8-10 years ago or something. And I thought it was so funny. I wasn't even aware of it until a friend of mine was talking about it. The idea is that you're listening to a conference call that you're not even mildly interested in. And all the people that are on the inside of this joke have a bingo card. And whenever somebody mentions the word that inevitably comes up, you check it off. And then first time you have your card full, you just yell bingo. And the people who aren't in on the joke have no idea why somebody just said bingo and everybody else is just snickering, you know.
You and I are big fans of Russ Roberts and his podcast, Econ Talk. Mm-hmm. I know there's an Econ Talk drinking game.
Right.
I don't know the details behind it, but it's probably something like bullshit bingo. So what we're going to do here is you've given me an entire spreadsheet, like quite a comprehensive spreadsheet.
I'm proud of myself. This is pretty good.
I'm proud of you too. Gold star. Some of the phrases that our clients use are listeners of this podcast, and you want to, in polite terms, push back on the use of some of those phrases, some of these cliches.
Yeah, in two categories, like, okay, here's the phrase, then what are we hoping to imply with this phrase? And then all of us are kind of winking at each other behind the scenes and saying, what that really means is this instead. And that's where it gets a little bit cynical.
Words are important.
Yeah, we'll soon see.
Well, there's no way we're getting through everything on this list. So this is either going to be a multi-part episode or a recurring feature on Two Bobs.
Or our last episode.
Yeah. Why don't you pick one first that you wanted to talk about, and then I'll pick one and we'll go back and forth.
Okay. If I steal yours, then you can just pile on top. I'm just going to start with the first one that came to my mind, and it's boutique. I still hear this all the time. We're a boutique firm. In other words, left unsaid is we're not one of those big, nameless ones with all the account people and the expensive facility. We're special. That's what we're hoping that this will mean. I think, though, what people read by it is that we're just small. What else does boutique mean? Nobody ever says boutique unless they're small, so I'm gathering that's kind of what it means. You still hear that word a lot?
Yeah, I hear it. It's never bought.
Oh, now you're going to be the reasonable guy, right? So I'm going to look like the cynic.
I thought that was how this podcast works. I see I should have thought of this before, and maybe it's just one of these things I'm so used to seeing it. I haven't thought deeply about it, but okay, what does boutique mean? I guess without having looked it up, it means kind of small and specialized, and not just specialized, or special as opposed to specialized. So small, high quality, high touch, handcrafted, special attention, etc. That's what is typically meant by boutique when it's a boutique craftsman of some type or a boutique retailer.
Right.
I guess the phrase originally applies to retail. Mm-hmm. Small, specialty, high-end, probably luxury retailer. So all of those are, I think, meaningful words that creative firm owner or employee would want to use. They would hope that they're able to communicate kind of the essence of all of those words.
Yeah.
But the reality is somebody says boutique, you hear.
I hear small.
Yeah.
What they want me to hear is unique, special, can't get it anywhere else. Meanwhile, thousands of firms are calling themselves boutique. So it kind of loses its edge there.
So I want to move right to the next one. And I wasn't planning to put this one on the table for you to discuss, but it follows logically on boutique. Another bullshit bingo word you have here is bespoke.
Yeah.
What are we trying to convey when we say ours is a bespoke firm?
That we never reuse anything. We never pull anything out of the drawer. Everything is absolutely from scratch. It's like you can't get this meal anywhere else. We didn't make it yesterday. You ever think about certain words? I had never heard the word bespoke until I was in my 50s. Isn't that strange? And everybody else, I think, had heard it. For some reason, it just never crossed my consciousness.
It's a very British word that hasn't really been imported over here
Right.
into the kind of common lexicon until in the last 10 years, for sure.
It's around tailors, right?
Yeah.
It's like your suit is measured specifically for you. And it's kind of like the boutique phrase, I would think.
It's a boutique bespoke shop on Seville Row where it's all handcrafted to you. It's all
Right.
tailored to you. Yes.
Right.
And so what's the problem with that?
I think the solutions you craft should be bespoke. But the problem is that you're implying that other people aren't doing that too. And it just feels a little disingenuous to me to somehow say this is bespoke and what other people are not doing is bespoke. So that one doesn't bother me all that much, not as much as boutique.
I think it opens an interesting can of worms that we've talked about before here, which is productization, the pursuit of scale, and the level or the degree to which firms try to productize their services. Because
Right.
bespoke, another word for it would be customized services in this case. So highly customized. Well, yours is a customized services firm. Everything you do should be bespoke. And the mistake a lot of firms make, and increasingly I see it more and more commonly, is they move away from bespoke or customized services to productize in this idea, this pursuit of scale. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about that before, that not universally, but almost universally, that's a mistake. And there's some level of productization in your diagnostics and your methodologies, your processes, et cetera. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, yours should be a customized services firm where every client represents a unique situation, a unique opportunity for you to bring your creative superpowers to bear. Every proposal should be unique. Every price should be unique. So yours is a bespoke firm.
Right.
But you're saying that use of the language, it's almost redundant.
Right.
Like you say, claiming that you're bespoke, implying that everybody else is not. Everybody else is or should be.
Yeah. And it's not like these words are confusing or wrong. It's just that we hear them so frequently. We pick up this lexicon and we just sound like we're parroting each other. And then as time rolls along, one word fades off and we pick up another one. Like you hear these phrases everywhere. And it seems like some of these that we're choosing, you hear in all the industries, like minimally viable product. But then there are some that are fairly unique to our world too, right? Those are the ones that are interesting to focus on.
All right, what's next on the list that you wanted to pick apart?
Well, storytelling has to be, right?
Oh, yeah. If you didn't go there, I was going to go there.
Yeah, I wanted to grab that one before you grabbed it.
This is us picking the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. What we hope people will hear when we say storytelling is it's compelling narratives of human interest. I haven't heard that phrase, but I think that's what they mean. But really, it's branding rebranded with some different ways of thinking. There is an arc of a story, and so people are building new elements into how they tell stories about brands, but it's not that different, and everybody's talking about it. It's just like, I'm just ready for the next phase, right? I don't know. It'll probably be another 5 years, though.
To reiterate your point, I think, storytelling is left to the creative and the marketing firms in the world. And it is really powerful. And most of the world still does not acknowledge how much they are influenced by stories and how those stories are told. So I'm with you. I think it's a powerful word that is grossly overused. Mm-hmm. I just hear it far too often. And that's the problem with trying to look for a new word to describe what you've always done and what your competitors have always done. Is you find one that works,
right,
and then everybody else piles on, and now it's like you're all saying, and then people come along and broaden that out to something else. And maybe the first firm that decided to make the storytelling claim actually had a codified methodology for how they brought their storytelling point of view to bear on their clients' businesses. And then all these people just stole the word and didn't make it all that meaningful. It gets watered down as more firms use it.
Yeah, and that phrase really was a Canadian invention out in Vancouver. E&S storytelling was the first one that really made it popular. And they didn't even need to have a process because nobody else was using that phrase. And now it's just everywhere.
You're listening to Two Bobs, conversations on the art of creative entrepreneurship. Your hosts are David C. Baker, author, speaker, and advisor to owners of expert firms, and Blair Enns of Win Without Pitching, the sales training and coaching program for creative entrepreneurs. For more information, go to twobobs.com. If you find this podcast helpful, please help us by telling a friend and rating us on iTunes. Thank you. Now back to David and Blair.
Okay, my turn to pick one.
Your turn.
You've got thought leadership on here.
That threw you, didn't it? I went through all of your blog posts and I just pulled all the phrases you use all the time. I saw this great definition of thought leadership the other day and I thought, oh, I got to throw this in.
So what's the definition?
Well, it's being a public intellectual, right? But then it sort of works if you think about it in the context of content marketing. I laughed. Somebody said the other day that there's a little bit too much marketing in the content. And then when you think about thought leadership, I've been wanting a new phrase for that for years. I just have not been able to think of one. What we hope to imply with that phrase is a public intellectual. But what it really means is that I'd like to be well known for my insights, which are not all that. I'm being very cynical here.
What it really means is,
save me from this. Yeah,
I'd like you to read the words you put in the cell on the spreadsheet.
Clickbait.
Clickbait.
Generally, it does. Yeah.
So thought leadership, content marketing. Do you remember what we as a profession called it before we called it thought leadership and content marketing?
No.
Education marketing. That's what I remember.
Oh.
In my early days when I was sending newsletters by fax, that's how I thought of it, as education marketing.
Helping people, essentially. And where the cynical side of me comes in is that really, I think a lot of content marketing is just clickbait, but we're trying to disguise it as content when in fact we're really selling our services still, and we're expecting something in return, which is why you gate it versus make it indexable and all that sort of thing. So it just, I don't know. I just think we could clean up some of this stuff without harming ourselves, but with actually helping ourselves in the process.
I don't know if it's quite a mnemonic device, but this idea of programming yourself, and I'm trying to program the listener right now. Every time you hear somebody say thought leadership, you instantly translate it to clickbait. And then what is your reaction to the idea itself at that point?
Right.
I don't know that it's going to have any impact, but it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
All right, your turn. What do you want to choose from your lengthy list?
Full service.
Full service. We haven't beat that one to death enough.
Right. I just hear this everywhere. I think what we're trying to communicate when we say full service is we are competent at anything that you would need to fit this, whatever it is you need from this. Like, we're good at that. But the way it comes across to me is pretty much just desperate. We can do anything. The rest of them I kind of just laugh at. This one really bothers me because I just don't think it's true in some cases. And the other reason is because I don't think you can really pull off full service as a firm of 20 people. You know, you have to be a much bigger firm to objectively say you're full service and have it be true.
Yeah, I agree. Full service used to mean creative, media, maybe account planning, account management.
Out of home.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would throw in all the basic legs of advertising.
Yeah. And by legs, you mean under the banner of media.
Right.
Now, you think of how fragmented and specialized all those different channels in marketing are. The idea that you would be full service would be...
You'd have to be hundreds of people.
You'd have to be more of a collection of specialists, and full service does not communicate that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what's called a holding company in our world.
Yeah, right. Also known as a bank.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, where is it? Your turn or my turn?
My turn, yeah. Growth-driven design. I don't know if you've heard this phrase, but it comes up a lot.
Yeah, but there's a guy out there, I forget his name, who's got a blog, who teaches a methodology. So I think it's somebody who's like actually invented a thing and taken that thing out. It's like a brand, isn't it?
Well, for him it is, but for the other people that use it, it simply means we're not going to do a $150,000 website for you. You're going to pay us $15,000 a month for 30 years, and we'll just keep improving it. And if you really look at growth-driven design, and I know the guy that did it, and I don't think this was his intention, but the way other people use it, growth-driven design is sort of like, I want an annuity to keep working on your website, and don't hold me accountable for meeting the big goals where it's launched and it meets this criteria and so on. And I think there's value in how that's used as a mechanism to charge, but it's a little gimmicky to me in terms of how we're changing expectations without really stopping and explaining why so much.
Gotcha. Okay, I get that. I want to throw digital transformation at you.
Oh, man, I wanted that one.
What we hope to imply is an all-new approach in a new age. What does it mean instead of that?
We need an app. That's always what it means. We need an app. Like, anybody got an app, or do we need to make one?
This is what our telephone conversations sound like. This is the real deal, people.
We need an app. Is there any looser phrase than digital transformation?
I love the idea of digital transformation. To me, it means we're an analog business that needs to be dragged into the last century. And you're saying we need an app.
People are going to hear that. They're going to immediately identify with all the clients that have called them in and said, we need digital transformation. Well, what do you mean by that? Like, specific, we need an app.
Digital transformation. So how many apps would that be? Because we're running a special on apps this week.
Yeah.
I think our unsubscribe on this podcast is like, this is going to be a record episode. But since we're losing listeners anyway, let's just keep going.
Okay.
Your turn to pick one.
Award-winning. Have you ever seen a website that doesn't say award-winning on it?
And authors too, best-selling. It's like best-selling for an hour in the most obscure category.
Oh,
right?
Right. So what we want people to read into award-winning means a jury that was very carefully deliberating for 7 days and 7 nights.
Yeah.
Decided we are the best. What it really means is that we had an extra $100 to come up with the application fee for the membership award show, which is run by magazines who, it's a complete scam on the readers. I mean, I've seen the inside of these magazines' budgets, and they make a lot of money on these annual awards. And like, if you look, half of the issues that come out in a year are some award or another, and people are paying a lot of money to get in there. Is that cynical, or is that cynical?
That's perfectly cynical.
Okay.
Okay, we're playing bullshit bingo. My turn to pick something from the list. Okay, omni-channel.
That's sort of like full service.
Yeah. What do people who are using omni-channel mean or hope to convey? And then what do you hear?
What they're saying is we are channel agnostic.
And I hear that as frequently as I hear omni-channel. Yep.
Yeah. And so, in other words, we're not going to force a radio commercial on you just because we happen to do radio. So we assemble a bespoke, can't even get through it. We assemble a bespoke plan to you that is channel agnostic, and we do it. We should try to come up with a phrase that uses 20 of these in one sentence.
Okay. We'll tweet it when we arrive at it.
Yeah.
So you wrote omnichannel. What we hope to imply, reach buyers everywhere. And what we really mean is we've always wanted to do out of home.
We've heard about new digital billboards, and I take my grandma to church every Sunday, and I'd like to plant a billboard right there so I can point to it on the way there.
Okay, we're getting like really cynical here. Let's do a couple more. You pick one, I'll pick one. Which one do you want to close with?
This one, I don't know if we should beat it up, particularly since I use it a lot. It's at the intersection of. So you say, at the intersection of such and such. And you're trying to convey like, oh, I see what he did there. Like two really distinct, interesting things. And now there's this little overlap, and that now I see things in a completely new way. But it's just kind of lazy. And it also sounds sophisticated because it's only been around for a few years. So we're kind of jumping on this. But at the intersection of audiology and
prostate exams. That would make you think, wouldn't it?
Yeah. What do you hear when you see somebody say at the intersection of such and such?
I'm not sure I understand the context you're talking about, because I really like that idea. And if you think of a Hollywood pitch, like where you're pitching a concept, so you've got very little time and you want to communicate the concept as succinctly as possible. Mm-hmm. I think most of those pitches are a form of at the intersection of. It's like X meets Y. Word is that the shortest movie pitch of all time was the words snakes on a plane. Somebody pitched snakes on a plane at the intersection of snakes and planes. And somebody said, I'll take it based on that. So I'm pushing back completely on this one. I like at the intersection of.
See, oh my God. The last one I give, you have fallen completely into the trap on that one. All right. You have another one you want to add?
Growth hacking.
Oh, that one pisses me off when I see growth. When I see growth hacking, it's almost always a male in his late 20s or early 30s.
Yep.
Who's never been super successful, but is always posting pictures of himself in front of a rented luxury sports car on Instagram.
I have a hard time with the word hacking on anything other than the original, because I think that word hacking, so what does it mean to hack something? It means to gain control of a system that you're not supposed to have control of.
Okay.
Or it means to make it do something that it's not supposed to do. So how is growth hacking? The idea is like growth is a machine, a standardized machine or systems, and there's one right way to do this.
You take it over and you make it go a lot faster than anybody else can.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, wow. This was the bitchiest session we have done in, not ever, but in a long time.
Top 10 for sure.
So if you're still listening, we appreciate you, and please come back next time.
If there is another one.
If there is another one. And we will actually provide some value. But this has been fun. I've enjoyed it. Thanks, David.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to Two Bobs with David C. Baker and Blair Entz. Subscribe and learn more at twobobs.com. That's the number 2, BOBS.com.